You may be seated. Good afternoon and welcome to the senior thesis for Ethan Hammontree. Ethan has been my senior assistant in physical science this year and has been grading for all of my classes. I am Mary Henson. I apologize if my voice is going in and out. It's been a little unsteady this week, but I'll do my best to keep it stable. I'm joined by Mr. Lee Fithian and Mr. Perea. I'm going to open us in a word of prayer and then we'll let you hear what Ethan has been led to share. Dear God, thank you for today. Thank you for Thesis Week and just that it's been so evident that your presence has been here with each one of these seniors, God. I thank you for Ethan. I thank you that it's his time to share what you've been teaching him. I pray that you'll just calm his nerves, help him to feel the joy of just seeing a room of people who are out here to support him and who want his best, God. I pray that you will help us to be open and attentive to what he has to say. I pray that you will allow those seeds to grow in our hearts and change who we are and not just fall on deaf ears. Thank you once again for Thesis Week and for MCA and just this opportunity to hear the ways that you've been growing the students here. In Jesus' name, amen.
What would life be without suffering? At first, it seems perfect. No pain, no loss, no rejection, and no anxiety about the future. That sounds like the kind of life most people would want to live. But the more I think about it, the more I realize a life without suffering would actually feel pretty empty. Joy would lose its depth if there was nothing difficult to overcome. Life would fall into a bland middle ground where just nothing really mattered. Suffering might not be pleasant, but the questions it asks cannot help but reveal our character. Meaning, therefore, is not about avoiding pain, it is about how we respond to it, both in our relationships and the chances we take to step outside of our comfort zones. This is not just something I read in a philosophy book, but something I've seen in practice. Many of you know that I love to swim. Every race, every time dropped, every goal reached reminds me that there's more that I can push for. However, swimming has also taught me that progress does not come easily. But I've learned that growth never happens in comfort. It happens when my muscles burn, my lungs ache, and my mind is screaming at me to stop, but I keep going anyway. Meaning also comes from pushing ourselves outside of our comfort zones. You do not discover who you are by staying safe. Instead, you find it through uncertainty, by trying something difficult, and by risking failure, stepping outside of your box. In that way, swimming is like a relationship. It asks me to notice and attend to what I need to do to improve, commit to doing, and push past my comfort zone in the process. There was a time when I felt caught between the levels. I was not fast enough to go to the top Division I program, but I was just fast enough to go to a school nobody had ever heard of. And during that time, I pushed myself harder than ever. I constantly thought about how to improve, how to train better, and how to race faster. Some nights I stayed up late replaying races and just thinking about what I could do differently. It was exhausting, but it also revealed how much the sport meant to me. In the end, I earned the opportunity to compete at the Division I level at SMU, and that made everything feel worth it. More importantly, that experience changed how I define success. It taught me that growth is not always immediate and that progress comes from consistency and belief. Looking back, those moments of fear and uncertainty are part of what made the accomplishment so meaningful. Feeling scared and unsure made every improvement matter to me. In the same way that sadness makes happiness more powerful, the struggles I face in swimming made every success feel earned. I also know what it feels like when suffering seems to have no meaning at all, or perhaps a meaning that can't be known in this lifetime. One of my friends died after being hit by a car. And although I cannot explain why that tragedy happened, his death posed a question that demanded my response. Sorry. That loss changed the way I see people. Reminded me that nothing is guaranteed and the people we care about can be gone like that. Now, this may sound stupid, but there was a video I watched of a guy asking a random guy on the street if he'd like $10 million. Immediately, the guy said yes, but then he brought up the stipulation that you won't wake up tomorrow. We sometimes forget how important life is because we take so much for granted. We get caught up in chasing money, success, or other goals, and forget that simply waking up and having another day is a very valuable gift. Life itself is the one thing that makes everything else possible. Without it, money, achievements, and possessions lose all meaning. The possibility or reality of loss does not weaken the connections we form with others. Rather, it is a reminder to invest deeply. Sometimes we only recognize the importance of something when it's gone. This idea is also at the heart of The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky. The novel tackles suffering head on, especially the suffering of innocent people. Ivan Karamazov, a young atheist intellectual, cannot accept a world where children suffer. He says he returns the ticket, meaning he refuses to participate in a world built on pain and suffering. His protest feels reasonable and compassionate. Why should anyone accept a system that allows innocent people to be hurt? Why should anyone accept a system where just kids in general just get hurt for no reason? But Ivan's refusal does not bring peace. Instead, it leaves him isolated and desperate. By rejecting God's world, Ivan also shuts himself off from meaning. He becomes too intellectual for love, connection, or purpose. In contrast, his religious brother Alyosha accepts that suffering is a part of life. He cannot justify the ways of God or understand parts of his own hurt, but through active love, he refuses to allow suffering to have the final say. Dostoevsky says, "Love in action is harsh and a dreadful thing compared to love in dreams. Loving in theory is easy. Loving real people with their flaws, misunderstandings, and pain is hard. This is not just something you see in a book, it is something you see in everyday life and relationships. We find real meaning in our connections with others, but genuine connection takes risks. If you never let yourself be misunderstood, you will never be truly known. If you never risk getting hurt, you will never love anyone deeply. The strongest relationships are not the ones with no problems, but the ones built through struggles, honest arguments, forgiveness, and choosing to stick around when it'd be easier just to walk away. When you forgive, relationships get deeper. When you sacrifice for another person, your sense of meaning grows stronger. Love that costs nothing does not mean much. Suffering makes relationships real and life-changing, not just surface level. It takes vulnerability, forgiveness, and the risk of being hurt, but that risk is what makes love matter. Without the possibility of suffering, love would be shallow." After talking with Mr. and Mr. Snell about my thesis, he recommended a historical memoir that helped me better understand this idea. During World War II, suffering was everywhere. In concentration camps, millions lost everything and faced unspeakable cruelty. You would think it would be impossible to find any meaning there, but Viktor Frankl, a prisoner and psychiatrist, claims otherwise in his book, Man's Search for Meaning. During his 3 years in the camp, Frankl lost his family, faced starvation, humiliation, and constant fear. Even so, he realized that when everything else is taken, nobody can take away how you choose to respond to the situation in front of you. As he writes, everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. Frankl noticed survivors were not always the strongest people. Rather, they were the ones that found a reason to keep going. He believed meaning comes from creating something, loving someone, and choosing how to face suffering you cannot escape. That proves comfort is not what gives life its meaning. What matters is how we respond when things are hard. Faith points to this idea too. In Ecclesiastes 11:4-6, it says, "Whoever watches the wind will not plant, whoever looks at the clouds will not reap. As you do not know the path of the wind or how the body is formed in a mother's womb, so you cannot understand the work of God, the maker of all things. Sow your seed in the morning, and at evening let your hands not be idle, for you do not know which will succeed, whether this or that, or whether both will do equally well." This is not just about farming. It is about taking action even when the outcome is uncertain and trusting that consistent effort will eventually lead to results. If I wait until I'm sure before opening up to somebody, I'll never risk a real connection. If I wait for guarantees before chasing a dream, I'll never actually do it. If I wait on the sidelines, if I wait for it to be painless, I'll just be on the sidelines. And Romans 8:18 just enunciates this more, says our present struggles aren't worth comparing to what's coming. That doesn't mean pain doesn't matter. It means pain fits into a bigger story. Hard times build character, resilience, and empathy in ways comfort never could. Suffering isn't just random. It's part of something bigger. It's part of a plan that God has for us to be better people. During one of our conversations with Coach Jenna, my coach Jenna and I discussed the recurring questions philosophers and writers have over the millennia. She explained that when people ask her difficult questions about life, faith, and suffering, those questions often force her to think deeply. Many of these answers she comes back to lead to one central idea, her relationship with Jesus and the commandment to love God and love others. For her, meaning is not simply about achievements or success, but overcoming personal challenges that shape her understandings of life and faith. She talked about surviving a severe car accident, walking through a family member's battle with cancer, and raising a child with special needs. Those experiences push her to reflect on what really matters, the commandment to love God with all her heart, soul, and mind. Instead of pushing her away from faith, those hardships strengthened it. One part of her story that stood out to me was her background in competitive swimming. Swimming had been a huge part of her life, and eventually that severe car accident resulted in an injury that forced her to meet limitations she didn't want. It meant letting go of something that had shaped her identity for years. Over time, though, she realized that meaning was not limited to her own achievements in the pool. Instead, she began to find purpose in helping others grow through teaching and coaching. Another part of our conversation focused on risk and meaning. She explained that pursuing a career in coaching had a bunch of financial expenses and financial sacrifices, but she chose that path because she felt called to it. For her, meaning came from being obedient to that calling rather than chasing the highest paycheck. That idea connects back to what I've been learning through my own experiences as well. Often the things that mean the most require the most risk. They ask us to step outside of our comfort zones, trust our values, and invest in relationships and experiences that truly matter. When I look at Alyosha, Ivan, Frankel, and even my own life, it's clear that our response to suffering changes everything. At first, when Mr. and Mr. Selm gave me the book, I just thought it was more homework, but it turned out to be a challenge to face life instead of running from it. Suffering isn't just something to get past, it's what gives us a chance to find out what really matters, to build real relationships, and to grow when things get tough. We can't get rid of all suffering, but we can decide how to respond to it. That's what gives happiness depth and a purpose to what we do. Our time in life is limited, and that reality makes the way we respond to suffering and the relationships we build matter even more. In the end, in the end, life is about facing discomfort and taking risks, stepping outside of your comfort zone, experiencing new people and places while deepening relationships with the one you already have. That is what it means to live. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. We're all very proud of you. Okay, so you kind of hinted at this in your paper, but can you tell us your plans for next year?
Sorry. I plan to go to SMU to study business finance at the Cox School of Business and to swim D1 there.
Okay, and so you talked about kind of this year, a big part of the challenge was actually being able to be accepted at SMU and swim at a Division I level, which is an awesome achievement because we don't have a lot of people leave here and go play D1 sports. And so, do you want to explain to everybody in the audience just what you had to overcome athletically to be able to hit that milestone?
Um, it just took a lot of effort. You just have to be consistent. Like I said, consistency matters. Like discipline matters, like how Grant was talking about. And it's just, even when you don't feel like doing something, you should still do it like every single day. And when you do that, it slowly becomes like a habit and it's just like a ritual. And the more you push, the more you try, the better you'll get. And with consistent effort, you'll reach your goals.
Did you ever at any point end up finding like joy in offering that, like that consistency and kind of the ritual aspect, even though you didn't necessarily know if it was going to pan out?
Um, Honestly, if I take it for like swimming, it gets like easier. I don't know if that's the same for everybody, but like we have like underwaters and stuff like that, and our coach wants us to do three, four, five off the wall, every wall. There's Once it becomes a habit, it just becomes easier because I don't have to think about it. It's just something my body does, just like that.
Nice. I've also seen you kind of pursue hard things in a conversation we had earlier in the year. I think I was teaching you to use the copier and asked you how long you had been at MCA, and you talked about when you came here, and then you mentioned something that kind of stood out to me. You said that one of the reasons you wanted to come and stay at MCA is because it's challenging. And I know you have siblings that go to other schools, and so I assume you could have chosen to go to another school. And when I hear reasons people like or want to stay at MCA, like the difficulty is not usually the top of the list. And so that was a really unique answer and stood out to me. And so what made you see the value of that so early on?
When I was younger, it was most learning things in math, science, all that has come pretty easy to me, and it's just, I don't know, when I was younger, I wanted to be challenged more because I felt like I was kind of just at a standstill for a while and like not really using my talents properly. And then I think it was my parents introduced me to the school and it was like, you can go here. They have a really hard writing curriculum. It might be really difficult, but it'd be a challenge for you. And in seventh grade, well, I guess the summer of seventh grade, I came, took the test, got in, and have been here since. and it's been pretty great. It's been challenging. It's been nice to get to know people. Everybody's friendly. Like, I mean, I know I'm friends with seventh graders, go to lunch with them like all the time, and that's not something you normally see at every school.
That's awesome. So how do you think keeping your standards high has kind of affected your relationships? Do you see it more often like help raise others up, or has that kind of led you more through times of drought where people are like, well, I don't want to hold myself by those same standards. So,
I
you can do
think,
that, but I don't want to.
yeah, I think I sometimes hold people up to my standards, and it's not always great because I set really high standards for myself, and then when I do that, I kind of push people away. But I've been working on that, so to use what I've been given to help others, basically.
What's the value you do see in suffering with community? Because I mean, you had individual goals and things you were trying to pursue for yourself, but also from your answer, just seems like that community is also valuable and something that's necessary in that process. And so, how do you kind of balance your individual calling and the individual meaning that God wants for your life versus doing that in a community with other people?
Um, well, I think of it, it's really easy to just bring it back to practice. But like me, Tommy, and David are friends from swim, and we all push each other to race. We all race each other in practice, and it's like it gets boring when you do something by yourself repeatedly. It gets really boring. It's hard to motivate yourself. It's hard to just keep doing that thing over and over and over again. But when you have people around you in like a community to just help you and do the same thing you are, the same good habits, the same good everything, it's just nice to be around.
Nice. Have you found that community anywhere outside of swim team?
I found it at our church at Stonegate. We have some pretty amazing people out there, and just it's nice to know you could go up to like almost anybody on faculty or anything and just ask to talk, and they'll sit down and talk to you and listen to whatever you need to talk about. It's just nice.
That's awesome. Okay, I want to get a little bit into your paper right now. So moving on from like more personal stuff. So, one of the things that I think is really interesting about your paper is that you kind of talk about this process of developing meaning first ends up starting with listening, that you have to listen to the question that suffering is asking of you. And if you never do that, you can never figure out um, a response or how to kind of cultivate or redeem that. And so a lot of people don't really want to listen. They want to complain or they just want to wait for the situation to be over or they want to blame someone else. And so, how would you encourage someone to start that habit of listening and self reflection?
Um, I'm a complainer. My I do complain. Um, but my mom's always taught me, my mom and dad both, when I was younger, taught me once you start something, you finish it, even when it gets hard. So I just think of that. So sorry, what was the question again? I think I gotta,
How do you start that habit of self reflection and listening?
um, you just take time. Like, I mean, everybody likes to talk about themselves. So you also have to think about it from somebody else's perspective. Like, you can talk about yourself and then you can also listen to what they have to say. And it's just important to a relationship to listen, like submit yourself down to somebody else, I guess. Like it's like Jesus washing the disciples' feet, basically, is how I see it.
Okay, so being willing to listen and submit, whether that's kind of in the process of building a relationship or to suffering you may not necessarily know the meaning of yet.
Hmm.
Okay, so once somebody is willing to kind of take that posture of listening, how do you encourage them to start putting difficult things in front of themselves for growth purposes? Because that's some of what you're talking about with suffering. And a lot of people like they'll do it when somebody puts it in front of them or there's a deadline or there's a grade associated with it. But I don't meet very many people that just habitually put difficult things in front of themselves for growth. And so how do you encourage somebody to do that?
You could have friends that just kind of do that. I mean, like, I don't think I wouldn't be nowhere near where I am now without my coaches. I could never do that, any of that by myself. And like, I mean, we have to rely on other people. So having other people in our lives to help us like do the hard things, even like, I mean, say you live by yourself and you're like depressed and sad and you didn't let anybody in, and then you have another guy that's depressed and sad, but he let
that after a person makes peace with suffering, the next thing they should do is actually become the type of person who volunteers to suffer. And he basically says that if you volunteer to suffer for your own sins and the sins of the world, that's kind of the next step after making peace with suffering, and is kind of the most redemptive way a person can live. And so, what do you think is different between somebody who's just kind of made peace with suffering or accepted that's part of existence versus somebody who becomes willing to volunteer to suffer and carry the burdens of other people?
I think of suffering kind of as like a challenge almost. Like it's something you can overcome, and once you like overcome it, it's like climbing over a wall. Once you get over, then it's better, I guess. And just you'll see that every time there's something just that you suffer about, it will get better. It won't just be like the end of the world, even though it may feel like that in the moment. And just it's good to keep looking out, creating new goals, and just wanting more, I guess, being like a little selfish, I guess.
So it helps the future suffering kind of become not as difficult or seen as much of an obstacle in the future, and then also allows you to be helpful and encouraging to other people kind of going through that situation is what I said. Awesome. All right, I'm gonna pass the mic to Mr. Fithian.
Doing all right?
Hmm.
Good. You're doing a good job. All right. I've got a couple of lines of thought, so I'm going to start with this one. Towards the end of your paper, you've got this thought of stepping outside your comfort zone and experiencing new people and places is what makes life worth living. You expanded on that a bit in your speech, but that's kind of the core idea. Um, how do you define adventure?
What do you mean?
Like when I say adventure, what kind of things come to mind? How would you explain it to somebody?
It was really dumb as soon as um
Or we like it.
I just think of like you see grass and trees in the distance, mountains. It's like you just I don't know, exploring and just I think of like before anybody knew anything about the world, basically, just like how Columbus was exploring the world. That's what I think of when an adventure.
I like that a lot. Okay, so I asked that because there was an element of uncertainty, right, to Columbus's adventure. Or when you just said nobody explored, I was thinking of Adam and Eve. There's an element of we don't know, let's go figure it out. Um, okay, so uh, famous hockey player named Wayne Gretzky in an interview said, "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take." So, what are the pros and cons of that statement?
I mean, I completely agree. Like, trying to think of an example. Say asking a girl out. I mean, it's gonna be awful. Like it's gonna feel rough, but like, I mean, if you do it, then I mean, like, I guess positives far outweigh anything that would have been there without it.
Okay, good. Yeah. Um, when does that sentence not? When is it unwise to follow that advice?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know
Okay.
actually.
Hang on, let me bring up this thought. Can preparation be made so that you are successful in shooting, like within
Yeah,
that book?
that's
Okay.
kind of how I was thinking of it. Like, I mean, if you look at it from a different angle, I mean, I think you can make it to where it'd be like a good shot, I guess, if that makes sense.
Okay, so you can do some preparations. Follow-on kind of thought is, uh, can you avoid suffering if you're careful enough in your preparations?
Suffering follows everybody. It's like a crucial part of life. Like, I mean, you can look at Jesus's life. Like, he suffered basically his entire life and all the way up until he died.
Yeah.
So,
Was he prepared for that?
Yeah, he was prepared for when he died and when God told him to come down to earth. So, yeah.
Good. No, yeah. Okay, so then I guess there comes a point when often, like at least in this quote, we go from practice to game time. Um, how much of life is practice and how much of it is game time?
Um, I would say when you're younger, it might be considered more practice. That makes sense. Like your parents are teaching you, you're learning about the world. Um, Once you get older and like kind of more out in the world, you kind of, I mean, every choice matters, and like you can decide to go get that job or you can decide to sit at home. And I mean, either way, it could be good or bad.
Yeah, I, I think I would argue with you. I think you're always playing for keeps, but the stakes get higher
Yeah,
the older you get.
that sounds better. Yeah.
Cool, thanks. Um, okay. Um, man, I've got a couple of different ways I want to go. I think I'm going to go what I consider the awkward way. I'm going to bring some suffering into my life and probably into yours. Alfred Lord Tennyson wrote a poem to eulogize his friend who had passed at age 22. It's called In Memoriam. Memoriam. I guess that's Latin. So here's a chunk of lines that I want to read to you. If e'er when faith had fallen asleep, I hear a voice, believe no more, and heard an ever-breaking shore that tumbled in the godless deep. A warmth within the breast would melt, that the freezing reason's colder part, and like a man in wrath the heart stood up and answered, I have felt. No, like a child in doubt and fear, but that blind clamor made me wise. Then was I as a child that cries, but crying knows his father near. Do you cry in your suffering? Like, we did see you shed some tears a little bit ago, and I think like that's a good thing for us to witness. Um, but is that something that's been a part of your experience of suffering?
Well, there's different kinds of suffering. I mean, I don't remember all these. Eli kind of talked about it, but I thought that was very impactful. Um, like I was really nervous for this, like really, really nervous. And like most people were telling me that as it kept going by, it would get better, but every single one I got to seemed worse. Like
Every like
every oral,
page.
every one I went to, every person's
Oh,
thesis I went to before mine, it seemed to get way worse. And I think it was just because that's like one more person gone, like one more person I might not see again,
oh,
like
you
that.
were feeling the stress.
Hmm.
Okay, and the loss. That's
Yeah.
nice.
Which, because I only really kind of thought about it after Eli's thesis when I went home not too long ago, before this. But um, sorry, I completely went away from your question.
That's fine. So, okay, so it sounds like you're like, but does that cause some sort of mourning in
Yeah,
your soul? Yeah.
that's it was like I forgot which one it was, but it was basically that he had a more scientific term, I guess. But yeah, it's just like I think it was like a soulful mourning almost. Like it's like a deep hurt.
Yeah. So that's something you experience and you go through. So the end of this poem says, crying, but crying knows his father near. Does crying knowing that God is there to comfort you shift anything?
It makes crying like I mean, there's different times you cry. You cry at a funeral, you cry when your dog dies, you cry when something might not go your way or something breaks. Um, but it is good to know that God's always there. And I remember like just like when you're crying and you think that like God's there, like you realize that God is there, it like I don't know, it feels like a weight off your shoulders almost to me. But
Yeah, interesting. Um, okay, I'm gonna give you one more piece of poetry and then I'll pass the mic. Um, this is in the same poem. This is the final bit. I hold it true, whatever befall. I feel it when I sorrow most. 'Tis better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. So what's the connection between sorrow and suffering?
Like, what do you mean? I just,
Okay, so sorrow, like that's that deep sadness, maybe regret. Suffering is when like you're feeling the pain of it.
um, I don't feel like they always come hand in hand. Like, just not always. I mean, suffering, there can be suffering without sorrow, I think. And then there can be, but I also think sorrow typically brings suffering. Like you, like when you're sorrowful, you like feel it. It like hits you in the heart.
Yeah,
Like you really feel it.
yeah, yeah.
But I mean, I think they sometimes work hand in hand, and it's something that over time you will slowly heal from. And
Good. Okay. Last thought that I'd like to hear you connect. What consolation does love offer to sorrow? Right? It was better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. So why is that the sentiment he's expressing? And I think you've seen that in your own life.
well, if you want to take it from okay, so like Michelangelo's painting, like the creation of Adam, like where he's reaching out his finger, it's like he knew the anatomy really well. So like Adam's finger was like barely bent, just enough to where he knew if he fully extended it, it would touch God's finger. And basically, he's just saying if it's our choice to reach out for a relationship with God, and with a relationship with God, we can know love and we can like take like all the commandments and try to love others the same as we would love ourselves. And I think it's meaningful. We have to start with God first and then work from there.
So that what does that do to sorrow? That's what I'm trying to like. So it's better to love than not. It's better to know God than not.
Yeah.
I'm trying to.
Yeah, that's what it's kind of getting at. But yeah, like I don't know. I'm almost sounds bad. I'm almost sad for people that don't really know God. Like it's a struggle. I feel like your life really changes once you get to know him.
Yeah,
And yeah,
I find that compassionate to be not sad. I think that's a big heart move. All right, I'm going to pass the mic to Mr. Poole.
Getting close to the end. Feeling good?
yeah, better.
Better. All right. So, would you say that suffering points a person toward God or away from God? Wait, can I offer you a hint?
Sure.
All right.
All right. Thanks.
So, what do you say? Do you think suffering pushes people toward God or away from God?
Um, Realistically,
I need a hint. Go ahead.
I think it pushes people away. I think I think when people encounter suffering, they kind of most people pull back and kind of turtle, I guess, and like they close themselves off from other people and don't allow anybody in, and they just like I'm talking like suffering like if somebody I mean there's different levels of suffering like but like I'm talking about like the most extreme kind of sufferings. Yeah. But I feel like it almost pushes people away. They have to unless they're like actively thinking about God is there for them, then I think they kind of move away from him in most cases at least.
I mean, that's the story that the illustration you gave of Ivan. He looks around at all the injustice in the world and says, I respectfully submit my ticket or
Yeah.
return my ticket.
But I think my coach had a very good take on that. That was very impactful to me about her.
That's the next
Out there.
question I was going to ask is just like, what is it that's different? Like, what was different for her that, I mean, it really seems like, I mean, she's dealt with a lot of hardship and even what you wrote. And so, like, what did she do differently that, I mean, it seems like it pushed her the other direction.
I think she just found the right people. I think she found a community that was good for her and helped her, and they were there for her. And yeah, I think she just had some really good people in her life.
Okay, well, speaking of good people in your life, I've seen all these like buff, fit people walk into the library today. So raise your hand if you swim at the COM with Ethan. Oh man, that's a lot of folks. Okay, so you got to make a case for me, like why swimming is worth it, because that just seems like it's this voluntary suffering that you're talking about. Like all these people here, like why would you subject your body to that? Well, I guess here's another layer to it. You know, you can say I achieved my goal. I made it to Division 1, but you know, with all due respect to all the people who raised their hands just now, probably most of them won't. I mean, that's just how statistics work.
Yeah.
So, like, what if they don't make it? Like, is that like why would it still be worth it to do that to yourself?
Um, I had a good quote and I forgot it. But like, I think, well, in the present, it mattered. Like, I mean, looking back, you can't change the past, and it's going to be what it's going to be. But you can always look forward and try to grow. Like, I mean, if you get to like a Division 2 program, and if that's where you want to go, or just wherever you end up, if you still want to keep going, you can still push yourself. I mean, there's a guy, Fike, I don't remember his name. He's like 47, something like that. He's still swimming.
Dang,
Huge,
that's old.
huge, huge dude. Yeah. But I don't know. I found it very inspiring. I met him, talked to him a little bit, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm getting old. His son swims. His son's about to go to college as well." And it's just you make it what you want to make it. If you want to push hard, then you can push hard. If you don't want to, then you don't have to. It's just it's good to push. It's good to have some pain in your life. Makes it more enjoyable, I think.
I like that. So have you? Seems. I guess I actually use this phrase since I teach hard math classes. I call it shared suffering when you do your work with other people. Have you done school this way too? Like, do you do school in community where um, where you sit and do your homework with your buddies and that kind of thing, and encourage one another, or do you just reserve that for the pool?
It's not really encouraging. I think um it's like I remember physics. Physics was fun with like Matt and Craig, and we would like work on stuff, and it's just like I mean, like in me, I wouldn't understand something, Matthew would understand it, and then he wouldn't understand like the next little step to solve it, and then I would, and it would all just click. And that's like one of the best feelings, like when you're working with somebody and it just works itself out. It just makes sense. I love that feeling. It's
Yeah, it's a great feeling. So, like, why didn't you chase that high through all of your academic career and try to do all your homework with your buddies?
some things just need to be done by yourself, I think. Like, I mean, I like studying by myself because with other, I get distracted pretty easily, and it's easier if I do it by myself. I also learn it better. So, I mean, if I need help, like, I mean, I always go to you guys' office. Like, my mom was very adamant about me going to tutors' offices and getting help and just reaching out, trying to learn.
That's good. All right. So, I mean, something that I was thinking about as you were sharing about all the laps you've done, all the time you spend at the pool. Do you ever do anything for fun?
Play a lot of pickleball. A lot of pickleball.
Well, I will challenge you to pickleball sometime.
All
That
right.
sounds enjoyable. How do you make space to like put margin in your life if kind of what you're championing here is the suffering is good? Like how have you made that a priority in your own life that suffering's the thing that makes you better? Being in the pool makes you better because you could always spend more time in the pool. You could always be working on your grades more or getting into the next best D1 program or like how do you decide when to take a break from all that and just go play pickleball instead?
Well, I don't know. I've always been able to manage my time pretty well. Like, I mean, you have like 14 hours of your day basically that you're awake, give or take if you get 8 hours of sleep. And well, sometimes like 16 or 18 when you have 4:30, 5:30 practice. But um, you can set time aside for little things. Like you need something different every once in a while. Like once it gets like super repetitive, it's kind of a rough funk and it's just not great. So just adding a little bit of something different every once in a while is really good for your life.
I like that. Okay, so when you came as a seventh grader, wait, did you come as a seventh grader? Okay, yeah, you were in my class.
Yeah,
Well, I had two Ethans, and so you let me call you Cole.
yeah.
And so I still call you Cole on accident sometimes. That's your middle name, I suppose. We can
Yeah.
just make it as. So it sounds like you picked this place because it was hard. Do you think we should start advertising ourselves at that? Like, hey, come to MCA, you could suck. Would that preach for people?
I don't think so.
So I see Eli over your shoulder. I get to officiate though his older sister's wedding this summer, and it kind of seems like some of what you're talking about in here is like real deep relationships also involve a lot of suffering and difficulty. So I'm wondering if you think that's like smart for me to talk about in their wedding. Like, man, guys, fixing to get married, it's going to be really hard. Like,
I mean, it
probably gonna be
is.
one of the most difficult things you've ever done. Well, good luck with all that. Like, should I kind of front load all of that? And
Maybe not in that exact way,
okay,
but um, I think marriage is hard. I mean, it's difficult. I mean, yeah, I don't think I'm ready for it right now, but yeah. But
so yeah, Rod's color. So like, when's the right time to come to terms with that? That MCA is difficult, that life is difficult, that marriage is difficult. Like, how do you uh, how do you come to terms with that idea if talking about it at the altar is not the right time, or talking about it at seventh grade orientation isn't the right time? Like, when is the right time to bring?
just suffering in general.
Yeah, just that's to be expected.
Honestly, seventh grade orientation sounds pretty, like
Okay,
one of the better options.
say it with me. MCA is suffering. All right, kids.
Just be like, this is gonna suck.
This is kind of related, actually, to the video you were talking about, but this seems a little bit out of left field. But if you could know, like right now, like when you were going to die, do you think you would like to know that?
No.
Why not?
Um, if I knew how and when I was gonna die, I would probably like say I died in a pool. I don't know, I drowned or something. I would probably stay away from the pool.
Sure.
Like it would really change how I went about my life and how I thought about things. Like I'd always be thinking, yeah, just don't go near a pool. No bodies of water.
So do you think, like, if you knew all the suffering that you were going to face in these next 4 years at college, it would affect kind of your approach to how you did college? If you kind of knew what all the hardship that was awaiting you?
I think of it as you can either face it head on or you can fold under the pressure, and I'd rather not fold because if I fold, then I'm not getting out of it as much as I'm putting in.
I do think that God, like, kind of allows us to only see just a little bit of the way around the corner, because if we did know, then it is scary. The world's a scary place, and we do have a lot of hardship in our future. And that this is kind of what the faith walk is that you're talking about. It's just like He gives you grace for today, and that's it. And so I'm with you. I'm glad that I don't know these things. So we probably have time for one more question before we pass the mic, if you want to ask anything.
Sure. So I guess my last question for you is one of the quotes I think is really interesting in your paper is an observation that Viktor Frankl made, and you say Frankl noticed survivors were not always the strongest people, rather they were the ones who found a reason to keep going. He believed meaning comes from creating something, loving someone, and choosing how to face suffering you cannot escape. And so what do you make of that fact that he says the survivors weren't always the strongest people?
He used Christmas as an example. So when they were in the Holocaust camps with their concentration camps, sorry. Like he was mining one day with a friend, and basically he was super hopeful that he would be out by the time Christmas came around to see his family. Well, days go by, getting closer, Christmas, and the guy dies because he had put so much hope on he would see his family then that when it didn't happen, it just destroyed him. And I mean, you kind of see that maybe not to that extent in like your life, like everyone's life now, but you know, that's that's the example he brought up, and I thought was really interesting.
So what quality do you think is the most important then, if it's not strength?
Um, just being curious about the world. Like as soon as you stop asking questions, it kind of yeah, as soon as you stop asking questions, it's just not great because when you can learn more, when there's something else, something new, then that's something you can go do. Like like more to do. As soon as you become hopeless, it's just downhill.
Yeah. Okay, so my last two kind of personal questions for you. So what's an ordinary place or way where you've been reminded to do that and kind of adopt that foster kind of curiosity or being hopeful about something or someone?
I always ask questions, even stupid ones, but always ask questions. Um, I just try to think of everything as interesting. It's like you just gotta kind of change your perspective on things. Like, I mean, not everything is interesting. Some stuff is kind of boring, but if you change how you look at it, then everything can be cool or interesting. And that's how I've kind of adopted that into my life and try to look at things like that.
It's awesome, and I've definitely seen that in you this year. Um, in class, working with all the kids and encouraging that same mindset in them. So, what do you hope to be remembered for during your time in museum?
I'd like to say that all the friends I've made here, but well, with the younger kids, but I, I wasn't really big on, I didn't really reach out much besides like last year and this year's probably the most I've reached out to the younger kids, I think. I've gotten to know a lot of them and they're pretty cool. Like, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I should have taken the time that I had when I was younger to like get to know more people and to learn more about them. But I'll have that. I'll just use that to look forward and in the future try to do that more.
So, okay, well, it is your turn. Make us suffer and ask us a question. So, go for it whenever you're ready.
Well, um, just what's a moment in your life that felt like it was the end and you like overcame it, got over that wall, and it was better, and it was for the better. Yes. Not necessarily for the better, but like got better.
I'll go first because I would guess that they're going to say something deep and profound, and uh, I'll just get this out of the way.
You have a few.
So yeah, I mean, I could talk about a lot of ways that I've made myself suffer by poor choices and being hospitalized and those kinds of things from injuries. But I have asked two girls out in my life. One was for my friend, and it was in seventh grade, and he was too nervous to do it. No, it was in eighth grade actually, and they are married now, and I'm like, you know, one for one at that point. I was too nervous to ask this other girl out when I was in junior high, and so I had him do return the favor, and that one didn't work out. So, but the other time was this girl in college that it was like, yeah, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, you know, that kind of thing. I was like, I mean, I got to tell her she's gonna stiff arm me, you know, to friend zone me, whatever I don't know what you say now. So I decided to go for it and told her that I liked her. And actually, I was going to recommend, well, not doing this for a first date, but our first date, we watched a movie about the Holocaust called Life is Beautiful, which is fantastic, by the way. I would highly recommend it. It's very much in keeping with the things that you're talking about in your paper. So I was ready for her to friend zone me, and she said, "I like you too." And I was like, "What?" I was ready for my, "Oh, it's okay, it's all right, you know, just maybe we can still be friends." And I was kind of halfway through my response to like that she was going to tell me no, and she told me yes, and now we're married. So you do have to take risks in life, and even if you know, like you were saying, even if she did say no, it is worth taking that risk, even if you didn't get to become a D1 swimmer. There are things that are being uh, forged in you from taking chances and doing hard things that are still worth it, whether you get the outcome that you think you're going to get or not.
Yeah, it's if you never put yourself out there, then you'll never get anything in return.
That's right.
I think for me, one of the big ones that stands out to me that was really difficult was when I gave up playing softball. I played softball, basically like t-ball, and then I made the college team and quit. Um, and because I wanted to pursue flight essentially, and it kind of happened in little stages. When I was in 10th grade, I played all through the summer, basically constantly, and I was on a team that made it to essentially the Little League World Series. Babe Ruth was kind of like the next level up, and so we were in the Babe Ruth World Series. Um, and we ended up being like in the top 5 teams. But during one of our last games, I tore my ACL. So I tore my ACL on ESPN, which is crazy, and they had to carry me off the field. And I knew it was going to take a long time to recover. And I used to be, I was pretty fast, and I knew I was never going to be as fast again. And so, kind of realizing that that was going to be something that would like change about my performance and so much I had invested like a lot of my childhood in to try to get better at was pretty difficult. And then just kind of later on, um, recovering, continuing to play and getting to college and making the team. And then before our first game, I just realized I would need to quit if I wanted to actually focus on being a good pilot. And so I went to my coach's office in tears and told him, like, I'm sorry, I'm just not gonna, I can't continue. Um, and I, and it was, I don't know, sometimes the growth comes through letting something go. And kind of when I tore my ACL, that was, I wasn't choosing to let go at that time. It was just something that happened, and then kind of got the opportunity later on to gracefully let it go. And that circumstance has helped me be able to let other things go later in my life too, and realize when it's the appropriate time. And so I have a lot of good memories from that time in my life, but also just being able to move forward and allow God to surprise me with what's next, I think has also been good. And so that's kind of the first time that came to mind for me.
Great. Thank you for sharing.
So I'm of the opinion this is a D1 question. This is one of my favorite thoughts. You don't know someone until you know their problems. So I really like this question.
Why didn't you ask it?
Valid. Yeah, no, like this one makes me want to tear up when I think of these like things going through my head. Like when I first got to initiate with my now wife, I asked her to a dance, and as soon as the words came out of my mouth, I almost blacked out. So I'm glad how that turned out. But even like ending up here, part of my story is I've worked as an engineer for 15 years and ended up getting laid off. And so that was a pretty terrible morning. But that afternoon, I called up Mr. Schumann, said, "Hey, can I come substitute?" And he said, "Yeah, come." Told me when to come. And I show up, and Mr. Pre and Mr. Schumann, they're like, "You're not subbing, you're interning." So they just like pulled a fast one on me. And now this is like an awesome job. And so it went from this thing I've done for 15 years has been taken from me to something that I hope to do for 15 plus. Um, so, yeah, those are my thoughts.
Thank you.
So we're going to say a prayer and close this. Well done, Ethan. If you'll bow your heads with me. Good Father, we thank you for this time. We thank you for leading Ethan to this topic. We thank you that with you, suffering is never for nothing. We thank you that you are the great Redeemer of all things. And we thank you, Christ, for being willing to go to the cross, to make things right with the Father, that we can know you, walk with you, and enjoy your love. As Ethan prepares to take the next steps in life, please reveal yourself to him. Show him your beauty, show him your truth, show him your goodness. Help him to run to you quickly as the bumps in life are bound to come. And that whether he's on the highs, the lows, or the plains, that he trusts you well. We thank you and we love you. In your name we pray. Amen.